The Assessments tool in D2L is a powerful tool that helps you create and manage quizzes. It also gives you as the instructor many different options for setting up and managing each quiz or test. Now there's a couple of ways to create an assessment, but this video is going to focus on creating quizzes using this assessment tool exclusively, as well as adding questions that are pre-existing from the question library. So if you are not familiar with how to create questions, please view the video covering how to create questions in the question library to learn more about question creation in D2L. Once you've created your questions in the question library, you can begin creating your assessment for your course. And to begin, you're going to open the quiz tool by clicking the evaluation link group located within the default course navigation bar, and then select assessments from the drop-down menu. The Manage Quizzes page will list all quizzes that exist within your course, both active and inactive. Keep in mind that students see only active quizzes that fall within a quiz start and end date. Across the top of the frame, you will notice 3 links. The Manage Quizzes link that will return you back to this page that lists your quizzes, a link to the question library, which should hold all of your questions, and a link to quiz statistics, where you can retrieve some high-level information about each of your quizzes submissions. To begin the quiz creation workflow, let's click on the blue New Quiz button. And first, on this Properties tab, you're going to give your quiz an informative name. But here, I want you to be leery of including a semester designation, simply because if you include a semester or date-specific instance in your quiz name, that's going to require you to come back and edit the name of your quiz every single time you reuse it. You have the option of categorizing your quizzes, and if you have several different types of quizzes, I would definitely encourage you to group them by type. But otherwise, and most often, you would not need to create a quiz category, and I'm not going to be creating one in this video. Now, I need to click on the Add or Edit Questions button in order to pull my questions from the question library and insert them into my quiz. So after I've clicked the Add or Edit Questions button, this page is going to open up to display the questions that are living inside of my quiz currently. To create questions within the quiz, you can click the blue New button and then select the appropriate question type. But remember that that workflow will not add your questions to the question library. So I'm not going to be creating questions within my quiz. Instead, I'll be pulling the questions from my library, which is definitely a best practice. So what I'm going to do is, to use questions that are residing in the question library, click the Import button. For the import source, leave the default setting, which is from an existing collection, and this option simply means that the questions I'll be importing are pre-existing in my course. In the Source Collection drop-down menu, I'll select Question Library because that's the location of my pre-existing questions. In the Source section drop-down menu, I'm going to select the appropriate question library folder that contains my questions. Now, if my questions are not inside of a folder, they're just inside of the question library, I would need to select Collection Root here. Once you've selected a source section, the questions that exist within that particular folder will appear on the bottom portion of your screen. So I'm going to need to mark the checkbox for each question that I would like inserted into my quiz. Now, if you want to select all of the questions, optionally you can select this folder level checkbox to select all of the questions within the folder. And after you've finished making your selections, click the Save button to return back to the question view of your quiz. Now from here, you're able to make quiz-specific changes to your questions. You can reorder them, delete them, or edit the point values of each question using these action links located at the top of the questions table. But once you're satisfied with your quiz questions, click the blue Done Editing button over on the right-hand side of the page, and that action will return you back to the Edit Quiz page, Properties tab, where we will continue setting up the appropriate parameters for the quiz. So once we have some questions inside of our quiz, we're now able to configure how the questions appear to our students. In the Questions Per Page text box, I'll need to enter a number of questions that I want displayed to the student per quiz page. Now remember, it's always a best practice to spread your quiz questions evenly across multiple pages. And that way, if there's some sort of technical issue or other situation, there's a better chance that D2L will have saved a student's work. D2L automatically saves and tracks quiz progress once a student moves from one page to the other. So that means if all of your questions are on one page and a student has a technical issue, there's a possibility that none of the quiz progress that they have completed up until that point will be saved, and they'll have to redo the entire quiz. So, for this particular example, I'm going to enter a 10 in the text box and click apply, and what that will do is it will place 10 questions per page within my quiz for the student. If you want to prevent students from being able to move backwards or return to a previous quiz page, you can mark the paging checkbox, and that will prohibit the action. Now, because I've already inserted and configured my quiz questions, I'm going to scroll past this section and locate the description introduction section. And if you do not see these text boxes, you may need to click the hyperlink labeled expand description introduction. Now, these two areas are for transmitting information to your student before they begin the quiz. The description is shown before quiz availability, and the introduction is shown at quiz commencement. So regardless of which text box you populate, you're going to need to ensure that the on radio button is also selected. Otherwise, your information will not display. The same is true for the page header and footer section. So if you scroll on down and do not see these text boxes, you may need to click expand page header footer. And the information in these text boxes will appear while the student is taking the quiz. So this acts much like a Microsoft Word document. So the page header will display information along the top of each quiz question page, and the footer will display information along the bottom of the page. So you can enter information in either of these two text boxes, but if you do choose to enter some information, remember to check that on radio button, or otherwise your information will not display. In the optional advanced properties section, you may need to click the hyperlink labeled expand optional advanced properties, but here you've got some other options that you can consider. If you have included hints within the question setup of your questions, you must mark the allow hints option. Otherwise, students will not be able to see question hints. And remember, question hints appear to the student while he or she is actively taking the exam. Hints are not the same as question feedback. Mark the disable right-click option to disable the right-click or the control-click on a Mac to prohibit users from using that right-click menu. Unfortunately, this option is not compatible with Macs when using Internet Explorer or Safari, so keep that in mind. You can mark the disable pager and alerts option if you want to prohibit students from accessing the pager tool, or if they have any alerts coming in during the quiz attempt. This action will turn all of those alerts off. Enter an email address in the notification email text box to receive an email message anytime a student completes a quiz attempt. So you're going to be notified on your My homepage of any students that have completed an attempt, but if you want an additional notification sent to your email inbox, you need to enter your email address here.